Hi, this is Tom Soane, and one of the most common questions that I'm asked is how you can raise money to buy an investment property. I'm guessing that's a question that's asked a lot by people that perhaps don't have much money to spend but really want to get into property. Or it's a misconception that prompts the question because you might think you need loads of money in your bank to buy a property. Well, you really don't. And there are loads of training courses that you can spend loads of money on that will show you how you can actually buy a property without having any money, or very little money anyway. But I want to show you how you can do it because I like giving this stuff away for free. Look, I'm not talking about general savings and how you can use your savings and redundancy pays or inheritance or equity or anything like that. I'm going to show you some real ways that you can raise money to buy a property investment deal and still make money. So, first of all, we can go through the usual stuff very quickly. If you've got savings in your bank, great start. If you've got a redundancy payout coming along, then okay, you've got a start. Or if you've got an inheritance coming your way, you've got a good start. But if you've got equity in your property, let's start with the easy one, right? Because they get much better later on. But starting with the easy one, if you've got some equity in your property right now, and by the way, the equity, if you don't know, is the difference between the amount you owe on the mortgage and the amount the property's worth. So if you've got a property that's worth £250,000, but you owe £150,000 on the mortgage, your equity is 100 grand. Sorry if you already knew that, but I never know what people know and what people don't know, so I just thought I'd explain it. So if you've got equity in your property, then the first thing you could do is remortgage your current property. Use that cash to put it into the next property. Now, you don't need to buy the property outright. Remember that. If you're going to invest in another property, you don't need to buy the whole thing. You just need your deposit so that you could buy a property with a mortgage. Now, if you're going to buy a buy-to-let mortgage, you only need 25% as a deposit, and also any money that you're going to use to work on the property, refurbishments, legal fees, stamp duty, any other costs like that. But that's the easiest way. But there are much better ways if you don't have equity. For an example, if you know a property investor. Now, I'm going to kind of get harder and harder and harder and more complex and more, secret, if you like. Maybe you might think of this, maybe you might not. But here's maybe 5 ways that you can get property funding. So number 1, if you know a property investor, obviously that's an easy one. If you know somebody that is currently refurbishing properties, selling them on, or has a portfolio of rental properties, or even just one, if you know a property investor of any kind, then speak to them. But don't go to them and say, hey, can I have some money? No. This is a business now. If you want to invest in property, it's a business. So you've got to start marketing. So go to that person and say, look, I've got this deal. Package it up. Package it into the deal. What is the property? How much is it worth? How much profit is it going to make? What's it going to cost? When do you need the money? And ask that property investor if they know anybody that would like to do a joint venture, perhaps. And a joint venture, I'll come back to that. But do they know anyone that would want to do a joint venture on a really good property that you found? Or do they know anyone that would want to lend the money in return for a really good interest rate? If you offer someone 10% on their money without having to do anything, I think a lot of people would take that. And I'll put it to you. If you've got 100 grand sitting around in your bank and someone says, look, I'll give you 10% on that money for nothing. You don't have to do anything, just transfer it to me. I'll do this property deal. Here's the details. Here's 110 grand back. You don't have to lift a finger. You might be interested to hear out that proposition. Anyway, so speak to property investors. Find out about a joint venture. Now, a joint venture is where perhaps, I'll give you one example of a joint venture. There's hundreds of different ways to do a joint venture. One is if you say to a joint venture person who's interested in a joint venture, I'll put down the deposit, you pay for the refurbishment, and then at the end, we'll split the profits accordingly. Actually, I'm going to give you 2. Here's another one. Hey, investor, you pay for everything, and I'll give you a share of the profits. How about that? That's a joint venture. And what it means is someone who's got some money might invest in the property, and then they don't have to do anything because you're going to take care of everything, and then they get a profit from it as well. Now, that might encourage people to fund things. They might make a bit more money than the 10% they would make if they're just going to lend you money. Another one is go to anybody that you know that's wealthy. And again, we're kind of working through, we're kind of working through the obvious ones here. But if you know anybody that is wealthy, you know that whole saying or phrase, money breeds money. Well, if you know somebody that's wealthy, they will know somebody that's wealthy, they will know somebody that's wealthy, and it just spreads out like that. So again, go back to that thing I said just now. It's a business. You better start marketing. Go to that wealthy person and say, look, hey, I've got this property deal. I can't afford to fund it myself. So I'm just wondering if you know of anybody that might be interested in making a bit of money out of this with me, because there's quite a bit of money to be made. Certainly if you've already got a property investment deal. Now, if you haven't yet found the deal, you just want to get someone behind you who's open to the options of funding it for you or working with you on a joint venture, then that's cool. That's another thing. I'll show you how to go and get properties in another video. But for this one, we're just assuming that you've got a property deal and you want to raise some funds for it. So speak to these wealthy people, because either they might want to invest themselves, or they might say, well, I don't, but I know John and Paula down the road, they like to invest in property and they do joint ventures and they do all of this and they do all that. Oh, great. Would you mind setting me up with a meeting, or would you mind connecting them with me, whatever. Remember, it's a business. You better start marketing, which means you won't go and ask one person and get one acceptance. You might have to ask 10 people here, but it's worth it, right? If you want to make some money out of property, you have to put a bit of savvy in. You have to do a bit of marketing. You have to put yourself out there. I mean, look, within all of this, you can talk to me if you want to. If you don't want to go through all of this that I'm just about to give you, I've got a couple more to give you, by the way, and you just want to talk to me about it, I mean, I can fund it. I've got investors that will fund it. If you want to do it that way, then great. But if you don't feel comfortable because you don't know me, then that's fine. Anyway, the next one is crowdfund. Now, I don't mean go onto a website and start doing a crowdfund. Whilst you can do that, I'm talking about crowdfunding, which means you get, rather than one person lending you 100,000, you get 10 people lending you 10,000, or 100 people lending you 1,000, or however it works. It's a crowd of people funding a deal. So they're all spending little bits of money. So if you're offering a return on investment of say 10%, I'm just making that figure up here. If you're saying a return on investment of 10% and each person puts £1,000 in, they're all going to get 100 quid back without doing anything. So 1,000 quid investment for 100 quid back for free, not bad. For sensible people, you do get the weirdos who've got 1,000 quid and they want to turn it into 10 grand in a week. All right, fair enough. Good luck to you. Anyway, so crowdfund. Now you can speak to your friends, you can speak to your family. They might know people that the old question is, I always used to ask this for any investor that I ever met. If I've got £1,000, what's the best way for me to invest it? And you know what? Really funny story interjecting, which is very unlike me, I know. But I once said that question when I was a lot younger. I was about 20 years old or something. I'd been paid by my job. And I said to an investor that I knew, I've got 1,000 quid. What do you think I should invest it in to make more money? And he said to me, put it under your bed and go and get a job. Fantastic. Thanks, mate. So that's what I did. Anyway, right. So crowdfunding. I love the way I just go off topic and, that's the way my brain works. I'm okay with it. I hope you are. Anyway, so... Right, we've talked about investors, we've talked about wealthy people, we've talked about developers and people that might know people that might know people that might know people that might know people. What I'm saying is try and find the people with money. Sounds very obvious, but then you have to ask the question, well, where are they? How do I find these people? So number one, they're right at your fingertips. They're ready and waiting for you. And I'll give you tip number one here on finding property investors. First of all, you've got Facebook, right? Go onto Facebook, search in the search bar there, property investors. Sounds really silly. There are groups on Facebook of property investors, people that want to buy property, people that want to invest in property. They're on there. So go on there, tell them your deal. Don't give too much information. By the way, don't give too much information. Just give them the packaged deal. Do you remember I said earlier on, you package the deal up, you put it into this is the deal. These are the facts and figures. Don't give the address away. Don't give your contacts away. Don't give too much away that people might be able to go and find that property and nick it off you. That's a big thing, by the way. Be careful. But go into these Facebook groups, put the deal in there and start talking to people about it. Start finding out who's interested, who's joint venturing. Quick word of warning, there are a lot of people that are sourcers. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. A sourcer is someone who sources properties and connects them with an investor. That's not necessarily a bad thing. If you are looking for funding and you've got the property deal and you go and you come across a sourcer who says, well, I've got investors, so if you cut me in on a bit of the profit as well, then I'll be able to hook you up. Not a bad thing as long as it stacks up mathematically. So Facebook groups and pages as well. There are pages where you can get my page. I mean, my page is followed by quite a lot of people that will invest in property. Just put the question to either the owner of the Facebook page or onto the page itself. Is anyone interested in working on joint ventures? Is anyone interested in funding property deals? You'll get people contact you, I promise. So Facebook groups and Facebook pages. LinkedIn. You know what? You can just search property investors on LinkedIn and it will show you a list of all the property investors. They're right there. They're telling you that I'm a property investor. But you also do the same thing as Facebook. There are groups for for property investors. There are groups for joint ventures and crowdfunders and all of those things. There are groups of people dedicated to this particular thing. Remember, it's a business, you've got to put yourself out there. But also you can go to networking events. And if you don't know, again, apologize if you already know, but a networking event is where you go to a place like a little function room or a hotel or something like that. And there's a group of business people or a group of people that are all networking and you start pitching your business and then they know someone who might want to take your business services and that person knows someone that wants to take your business services and you do all the same. So it's networking, you're meeting new people, you're learning their contacts, and you're really networking out into a bigger spectrum of contacts. So go to networking events and say, look, I'm here because, and look, most of these places will give you like a minute to pitch what you're there for. Certainly like things like the Chamber of Commerce, and there's an old one I used to go to called For Networking. I don't know if it's still about, but just search on Google networking events near me. They're all there. So anyway, you stand up and you say, yeah, my name's Tom and I've got a property that I really want to invest in. I'm looking to raise some capital, maybe do a joint venture and share the profits. So I'm looking for investors, I'm looking for joint venture partners to do that with. Now you might not get one network meeting, deal done. You might have to put some legwork in here. Remember, it's a business, you've got to start marketing. Next of all, you can go to investor events. Now, there's the big investor show in London once a year. You can go to that, you can go round to all the different stalls and you could just say what I've been saying all of this whole video. You can say, hey, I've got a property, I'm looking for funding, I'm looking for joint venture partners. Can you hook me up? I'm looking to share the profits. I want everybody to make some money. Try to remember throughout all of this, people in this world are only really interested in the money. Everybody wants money for nothing. Everybody wants to get money free. Everybody wants to be given a cash injection. And wealthy people are no different. Not so wealthy people are no different. Everybody wants money. So go to the investor events and just put your word out there. You've got this property. Now, here's a little tip, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because if you've watched this video and you're still with me after 14 minutes, I'm going to give you a little gem. If you go to all of these places that I've just given you, remembering the term, it's a business, get marketing, make a property up. I know, this is terrible. I should literally be, if I was an employee right now, I'd be fired. Make a property up, make a great deal up. And I'll give you an example. If I went into Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, networking events, and all of those places, and I said, right, hey, everyone, I've got this property and I want to find funding for it and I want joint venture partners and I just don't know anybody. Can you connect up with me if you're interested in it? And you say the property, I can buy it for £100,000 and when it's done, it's worth £200,000 and only needs 20 grand spent on it, then you'll get people jumping down your throat. But the beauty of that is that once people start connecting with you, you can say, oh, do you know what? I didn't get this property, but I'll get the next one and I'll give you a shout, yeah? and they say, yeah, let me know. Oh, that's a shame we didn't get that one. We could have made loads of money for nothing. But when the next property comes along, please do let me know. So that's a little tip for anybody there that's made it all the way to this part of the video. I should have probably said at the beginning, right at the end of this video, there's going to be a real mad tip. Look, it might not be a mad tip, but it's definitely a tip. You can't deny that that is a real good way to build up contacts of property investors and joint venture partners. But do remember that whole phrase, right? It is a business and you do need to market. If you found a property already, that's your product. And what you now need to do is get that product deal done, get it sold. So your business now, you've got the product, your business is to go and get buyers, right? And buyers are buying your product because you need them to fund it and you need them to invest in it and joint venture with you and so on. And the best part about all of this is there's nothing dodgy here. There really isn't. Actually, there's nothing, you don't need to rip people off. And this, I see this quite a bit in property. It is a bit of a cutthroat area. It's a bit of a dog eat dog type area. You don't need to rip anyone off. There's plenty of money to be made unless you're super greedy. And do you know what? The really greedy people, they always get caught out. They always have a tough life. And if you are anything, if you've been following anything that I do, then I'm all about being the anonymous landlord. Because I believe that, yeah, profit money is great, but profit life is also great. And you have to have the two. There's no point in making a load of profit if you've got no life. I guess really in a nutshell is start making friends, start getting into all of these different areas where you can start building up your contacts. And then that's the key. And then start selling your product. So I hope that helps. I quite enjoyed doing that one because when I first started, it's exactly what I did. I went out to try and find money men, money women, whatever. I went out to try and find people with money that I could do joint ventures with, that I could get property investment from. And I think I ended up pitching to about 10 different people and people were going, oh yeah, that sounds good, that sounds good. And then one said yes, and I've got him now. I now have quite a few investors that are ready to fund my deals if I find them. Because I'm the anonymous landlord. You know, I don't really want to be using my own money, especially if there's money to be made by other people. That's my philosophy. You might agree with it, you might not, but it's working for me. So if you want to copy what I'm doing and hopefully those tips help, get going. Let me know how you do. I'll be really interested to hear if any of these tips help anybody. So good luck, everyone. Speak to you all soon. Take care.